For more on the negotiations going on in Shanghai, I'm joined by Tamny. He's the political economy editor at Forbes and an editor at Real Clear Markets. John, welcome to our program.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So it seems to me there doesn't seem to be any signs of urgency, and the expectations are rather low from this round of negotiations in Shanghai. Are you getting the same sense, and why?
I'm getting the same sense, and there's a reason why I am. It has to do with, I think President Trump thinks it's to his advantage to always have a conflict going on in China with China. This isn't a good thing for the economy, but I think he thinks it's good politically to be telling the American electorate, I'm fighting these guys over there to get you a better trade deal. And if he can take this alleged fight, which helps no one, through the 2020 election, I think he views that as a way to get more votes.
He came out today, made a number of statements. He also sent out a number of tweets, basically ripping into China, suggesting China can't be trusted, that it has reneged on past promises. What do you make of this? Again, is this part of his strategy? Is this helping or hurting these negotiations?
I think it's embarrassing, and I think it's particularly embarrassing in consideration of what President Trump would notice with a walk around China. I want so badly for him to be in Shanghai, to see all the amazing tall buildings, because I think he would recognize something, that the Chinese are like the Americans. They have big growth visions, and he would see what an amazing market this is going to be. But he would also see very specifically that no one feels more at home in China than an American does. Everywhere you look, there's a McDonald's, there's a Burger King, there's a Pizza Hut, there's a Sunglass Hut, there's Apple stores, Polo stores. Everything that we produce is over there. It is an expression from the Chinese people how much they like what America has produced and how much they're not trying to bilk us. In fact, they want to engage with us, be more like us. We should be more like them. If Trump could see this, I think this would change his views.
Okay, but the reality, John, is there's some serious concerns on the part of the United States and the Trump administration. They're worried about forced technology transfers. They're worried about intellectual property theft. Do you see a scenario where these two sides can at least meet in the middle? Is there even a middle when it comes to these issues?
I don't think there's a middle, simply because alleged IP theft is as old as commerce is. If you go back to Henry Ford, if you go back to Thomas Edison, if you go back to Bill Gates, if you go back to Steve Jobs, everyone is always copying someone else. Now, what's important, that's a sign of a dynamic industry. What's also important is that genius can't be stolen. The Chinese can only mimic us, and we can only mimic the Chinese insofar as there are talented people on both sides learning from one another and trying to perfect the genius of others. Thank goodness the Chinese are mimicking U.S. producers, and thank goodness U.S. producers will do the same. They'll call it IP theft, but in fact it's talented people learning from one another and improving on what one another are doing. So to stop it, to say this is against the law, would quite literally be for either side to say that commerce is against the law, that progress is against the law.
China says it's actually followed through on the promise of buying American agricultural products. It says millions of tons of U.S. soybeans have been shipped to China, John, since July 19th. But President Trump again said something entirely different when he tweeted today. He said China is doing very badly, was supposed to start buying our agricultural products now. No signs that they're doing so. Who are we supposed to listen to here?
I think we've got to separate Trump's rhetoric from reality. And I think when we do that, we'll probably understand Trump better on this. I think what's unfortunate about this is that Republicans, historically the party of free markets, of unfettered markets, are basically saying they want plans put in place for how much the Chinese are going to consume of American goods. The mistake there is that there's no need to do that. There's this myth promoted by economists that the Chinese have an export economy. They don't care about consumption. All one need do is go visit there to see that the Chinese, precisely because they're so productive, are remarkable consumers and want to consume more and more of the world's plenty. Thank goodness. You don't need, President Trump, the federal government, the U.S. Treasury, they do not need to force the Chinese to consume American goods. The fact that the Chinese are so productive economically is the surest sign that as they grow, they'll more and more purchase what's produced in the United States, and vice versa. That is the path to peace, not toward war.
All right, John Tamny, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.